The authority's charter school performance framework makes it clear that charter school renewal applications are based on charter school's academic, financial, and organizational performance. The one thing, because this has come up a lot recently, we don't do our own ratings under those performance metrics. And so like for the academic performance, we're relying, it appears, completely on the NSPF. And there's no what's going on with each of these frameworks and whether we should be looking for a rating under those frameworks in staff's analysis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We currently do not utilize a framework that would put a rating on this school or give a rating to this school. That said, staff has identified this as an opportune information, so that is a current priority for our schools and is our hope to get that work off the ground and have something available not only for you all as board members but also for our schools. A performance framework that is high quality must be mutually beneficial, and so we look forward to engaging with our partners in that work so that we can develop something that is workable and informative.
Okay, and then the other question I had appears on page 4. It's under organizational, and it says, in its current iteration, the SPCSA organizational framework is a rolling evaluation of school organizational performance. And this may be just my own ignorance, but we haven't, as a board, talked a lot about organizational framework and what that means. What does that sentence mean, that the organizational framework is a rolling evaluation of school organizational performance?
Mark Butterson for the record. I would say that what that sentence is trying to communicate is that we monitor the statutory and regulatory compliance of all of our schools on a regular basis. We look at a variety of submissions that they submit to us through a tool called Epicenter to make sure that they are legally compliant and operate at a high level. So I think the term rolling evaluation is really speaking to that, because we rely on that tool to communicate with our schools and make sure that they are following the letter of the law.
Great, thanks for answering those questions. I don't have any other questions. Does any other member, before we turn it over to the school, have any questions about staff's recommendation?
This is Member Moulton, Chairman.
Yes, please.
Just a quick comment, and it's something that I say rather often in looking at the demographics. Several of these schools don't exactly match the surrounding schools. And so I would like to encourage all of them to continue to work on diversity and demographics through their enrollment. Just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Motterson, maybe you could address that with regard to Coral Academy. I know you have some demographic breakdown there. How do these demographic numbers compare to the schools where these Coral Academies are located?
Mark Butterson for the record. Unfortunately, I do not have the data that would speak to how these schools compare to their geographic peers within a 2 or 3 mile radius. What I can speak to is the state averages, if you'd like that information.
And
yeah, that would be good.
Chairman, just for clarification, I'm looking specifically at the Clark County and the Clark County demographics. And they are, they don't reflect those demographics. And so those are the ones that I'm particularly concerned with. You've got a wonderful school, you've got wonderful things going on, and I would hope that you would look at other parts of the valley that may have a need for a charter school and see if you can cite some of those great accomplishments that you're accomplishing throughout some of the parts of the county and some of the other parts that might need that. That's my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, that's Director Motterson. Just given what Member Moulton has just said, I think we'll hold off because it's not the statewide comparison that I think is particularly pertinent, but it's what these schools and the students in these schools look like relative to the neighborhoods where they're at and the other schools in their area. And I think when we talk about academic frameworks and or maybe it's under the organizational framework, I'm not sure, and we talk about the subject of diversity, I think one of the factors that we should provide points for is how a school is performing relative to its peers in the same neighborhood, not just in terms of academic performance, but in terms of diverse student populations. I think we should reward that with points when we come up with an evaluative tool to do so. Any other comments or questions? All right, Member Hinton.
Yeah, Member Hinton for the record. Yeah, I'd just like to concur with that, but by diversity, are we talking about free reduced lunch numbers? Are we talking about IEP, individual education plans? Just want to make sure that we're talking about all diversity, not just ethnic diversity. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In looking at the demographic breakdown, there are different categories as I understand it. There's free and reduced lunch, there's ELL, there's IEP, and then there are the identifiers based on race. And I think that whatever tool, evaluative tool and rating tool we come up, whether that's under our academic framework that we're revising or whether that's under our organizational framework, that it should reward schools that not only are performing well academically, but are performing well across all of these demographic categories.
Mr. Chair, I actually have wonderful staff down here in Vegas with me, and they were able to give me the Clark County numbers as you were speaking, if you'd like me to give those for the record.
Yes, please.
Very good. So these are about a year old. We have not actually received 2018 validation data from the Department of Ed, but that should be coming any day now, and we can certainly include that in our future work and report that out to the board. But the demographics for Clark County are 46.2% Hispanic, 13.8% African American, 6.4% Asian, and 64% FRL, 25.4 ELL, and 11.5% special education. And I can additionally give you, for context, I was able to pull up the SPCSA averages from 2017. So this is just our schools within our portfolio for the demographic, for the three categories listed at the end of the chart before you for all three of our schools. FRL authority school-wide is 21.9%. Across the authority for IEP students is 9.1, and ELL is 6.5. So I apologize for not putting that in the memo, but I'm happy to restate any of those numbers for you if you'd like.
Chair, to Mr. Mullerson, if I could, what was the Caucasian number for the district, for Clark County School District? I had 46 Hispanic, 13 Black, 6.4 Asian. Was there a Caucasian number? I'm sorry, and you can...
If you give me 1 second.
Okay.
The Caucasian number is 25.2%.
All right, thanks so much.
So I think we have a pretty good story to tell. I was just at a NACSA conference where I sat in on a session dealing with both people with disabilities as well as ELL students, and I was happy to see that the state of Nevada actually does pretty well, particularly with the ELL population in our charter portfolio, and so we've got work to do to improve for sure, but I think we're on the right track. And the thing that will give me assurance that we are being more intentional about those issues is if we codify that priority in our frameworks and provide points and ratings with those considerations in mind. And we're in the process of including these priorities into our frameworks. And so Director Moterson, you don't have to apologize for not including it, because I don't know that we've done a very good job at the board level necessarily articulating that as a priority, especially given the fact that we don't have an updated academic performance framework, and we need to actually revise and implement a new organizational framework. And I think we're almost done with the financial framework, but that doesn't really play as much of a role in this sort of analysis. And so once we get those done, we'll have a rating tool that we can run side by side with some of these other things that you're reporting to us when we make these decisions in the future. Anybody else? Okay, hearing no other comments or questions from the board, why don't we turn to the school? And I'm not sure who's there because I can't see, but the school leader, just feel free to make some comments about your application, and then if you wanted to respond to any of the comments that were made by the board during our conversation with staff, feel free to do that as well.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board, authority. Thank you very much for having us here. This is, for the records, Ercan Aydoğdu, Executive Director of Coral Academy, and I have got one of our board members here.
I'm Philip Zhang. I'm the board treasurer. Morning.
Yes, as Mr. Mohsin explained, we prepared our application and submit by the deadline. And we are happy to answer any of the questions. For Member Moulton's suggestion, thank you very much. We are doing our best to reach all the different demographics in our surrounding campuses. And yes, if you compare CCST's average, yeah, they are a little bit lower. Lower than CCST. However, we did some analysis comparing to our neighbor schools. For example, at the Sandridge, Windmill, and Temeris campus. I don't have it with me, but I'm happy to provide. In some categories, we were higher than, like Hispanic, for example, population. Our school Sandridge was higher than the neighborhood school, CCSD school. And even in African American population also, it was higher. And here, for the free reduced lunch, I think our Nils campus is the highest, to almost 30%. And we have got also our overall averages. If you want, we can tell them also.
Thank you for those comments and that testimony. I just want to say how proud I am of your school and its performance, and you know, the example you set for the rest of the portfolio. Your school has consistently been a high performer, and has been recognized as such. And when we talk about what is happening in the charter sector that is excellent and noteworthy, Coral Academy is always in the first 5 minutes of that conversation. So I really appreciate the work you and your team are doing, and you should celebrate your successes often, because there's a lot to celebrate with regard to your school.
Thank you, Chair.
Having said that, having said that, I'm ready to take a motion on this application.
This is Melissa Mäkinen. I would move to approve the Coral Academy renewal application.
Member Moulton seconds that motion.
All right, we have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Arjan, to you and to your team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.